The truth is, the immigrant population has always been vulnerable, and it's even more vulnerable today because of the fears that run rampant in our communities about ICE and roving patrols.
This is all part of an immigration raid at a Sacramento Home Depot.
About the possibilities of getting deported even if you show up at your immigration hearings.
But now federal and state authorities are still piecing together what led up to the third shooting involving federal officers in Minneapolis.
I think the level of terror and fear in immigrant communities today is off the charts. It's unheard of in modern American history. And so I could see desperate immigrants looking for relief, falling for schemes that they wouldn't have fallen for a few years ago.
Welcome to the Americans Helping America Chamber of Commerce agency here from Sacramento, California, USA. My name is Dr. Hillman Hansen, and I'm just following up.
If you start telling people what he was pitching, nobody would believe it. But yet, people were believing it every day.
And when I'm talking about this program, I'm talking to all different diverse communities and also American people.
I had been a lawyer for 30 years by that time, and I remember thinking, like, can you do that?
And I mentioned something about during the 1964, the law of the adult adoption came out, and since then it hardly been utilized or used by the people because of lack of knowledge and also not understanding how to go about these things.
Usually it's 5 years as a lawful permanent resident before you can naturalize and become a United States citizen. And to become a United States citizen, you have to pass a test. You have to stay out of any criminal trouble while you're a lawful permanent resident.
Adult adoption here is pretty much giving the rights to anybody. The rights to anybody to be adopted under the law of the United States of America.
Have you ever heard of anybody being adopted as an adult and becoming a U.S. citizen?
Never.
We first heard about this story right around the Christmas in 2015, and we were told to look at this place called Americans Helping America Chamber of Commerce and Dr. Helaman Hansen.
Well, first of all, the whole thing is just bizarre right from the beginning.
Here, we're helping to assist them to make sure they have a proper identification.
Hansen had this whole building full of people that answered phones, and he had a YouTube channel that had all these clips of video and everything, and that gave him an air of legitimacy. Helaman Hansen was this larger-than-life guy. He talked constantly, all in run-on sentences. We tried to figure out where he was from, because he was an immigrant with his wife to the United States. At one point, Dr. Helaman Hansen claimed he was from Fiji. Then it was Tonga. Then it was New Zealand. Then it was Australia. He went to school in Hawaii. There was even a Tongan newspaper at one point where he was quoted saying he was born on a boat somewhere between Tonga and Fiji. We were never able, even with immigration records, to nail down where he actually came from.
But this is what he was talking about, was this whole idea of adult adoption, and that if you were in the country illegally, you could somehow become an American citizen simply by being adopted by an American adult.
So he claimed that if he and someone in his organization adopted someone as an adult, that he could make them a U.S. citizen, that he was the only one in the 200-plus year history of the United States that had figured this out, and that's how the scheme would work.
Adult adoption is a legal process. It's often used for estate planning, formalizing parent-child relationships, and to care for a disabled adult.
I probably would never have even believed it at that point had we not been contacted by the attorney who was representing a lot of these folks.
Now to KCRA 3 investigates and adult immigrants being adopted by American families with the promise of gaining U.S. citizenship.
They would tell my parents, hey, this is something you can do for your kids. They'll have a better future.
There is one option, you can be legal here.
Their stories all sound similar.
They were giving us an opportunity
The stories of immigrants searching for legal U.S. citizenship.
A lot of them didn't want to go on camera for various reasons. Either A, they were just embarrassed about the fact that they were duped, or B, they're in the country illegally and they were afraid of, being identified and then deported.
You can see how some people would think, okay, maybe this makes sense. And a lot of people, I think in good faith did and put in money.
And even when you get that paperwork, that doesn't mean you're an American citizen.
The law permits children to be adopted, and that's pretty common. There are orphans around the world.
But according to immigration attorney Joseph Lacombe,
It's a total scam.
Lacombe says AHA promises adult adoption grants U.S. citizenship. It doesn't.
He was just like, if it were that easy,
I would have adopted Mexico by now.
It's not legal. It's not how it's done.
He would go to community groups and church groups.
And there's this man who asked us to shield his identity. He's adopted 6 people from his church and has other adoptions pending.
We've been praying for papers for our people for many years. And when I saw this is a miracle.
There are usually some elements of truth in the pitch that are wrapped in a ball of lies. You have efforts to sort of window dress the presentation with, official documents and certificates and things like that.
We found out, like I said, the adult adoption, because we thought only children is adopted. But the law is available in every state to adopt adults.
And often the fraudsters target a sort of an insular or trusting community in order to try to generate customers for the fraud and to keep outsiders at bay.
It started at like $150, and then it increased in varying amounts and went as high as $10,000.
Which is a lot of money for anyone, but especially people who are undocumented. It's a lot of money.
Because sometimes my kids asking to buy an expensive toy, and I say no because I don't have money, and I feel bad because I spend my money to these guys for nothing.
Their petitions would be denied by customs and immigration services. And he would say, well, you need to then build up this profile.
And at once that is all done, I mean, you complete as a citizen, because the list of 24 steps that we have taken is taking you into the road of citizenship.
They would go to the DMV or the passport office or immigration and say, hey, I'm trying to get my driver's license, and the people would say, no, you're not a citizen. And then they'd go back to Hanson and he'd go, well, yeah, because you have to establish residency, and I'll help you with that.
A driver's license, a bank account, a library card, memberships at big box retailers.
If you pay me more money, and I'll go through this list of things that you've got to do that I can help you with at this point.
These people could be applying for Social Security numbers or putting themselves out as U.S. citizens, saying that they're claiming to be a U.S. citizen, and actually that's a ground of deportability.
It's like having a membership to, Target or some other retailer doesn't make you a U.S. citizen. Just makes you a member of Target or whatever.
I remember going and sitting down with him, and he had this office that I think it was in Rancho Cordova, I think.
We have promoted that adult adoption is a family foundation.
And he just couldn't really articulate how it worked. I could never get that out of him.
You have a sort of a highly confident, glib pitchman who presents himself as an expert with sort of some unique knowledge that other people don't have.
Is this a scam? Are you a con artist? I'm just going to ask you.
And finally, Brian had just had enough and said, look, I just got to ask flat out, are you a criminal of some sort?
Tell me, why is that attorney never come to sit with me here? That's the reason I keep telling you. 4 years in a row, not even an attorney sit in front of me and ask me like you do. But always something said somebody. Attorney said this, attorney, but never face me.
I never could understand, how can you tell me that this person is going to be a United States citizen?
You have helped people become United States citizens because they were adopted as adults. That's what you're telling me, correct?
Thank you. I will stand by it, and I stood by it.
Well, that's the international adoption law. What international adoption law. We're the United States of America. We have our own laws. We don't follow international laws.
And they trust him because he says, oh, my wife is one person, is one example.
They are United States citizens.
They're United States citizens.
Going to multiple courts in the Bay Area, here in Sacramento, and other areas, including Los Angeles, to do adult adoptions. There were some courts that got suspicious of what he was doing and put a stop to it, questioned what he was doing.
Then he'd move on to another court. When that would happen, he'd move on to another court.
Courts in Sacramento and Alameda County had blocked adoptions by AHA, and the Alameda County DA's office had already opened their own investigation into Hansen for falsifying documents. While Hansen stands by his method, it's now caught the attention of federal investigators. KCRA3 Investigates was at Hansen's office last night as a dozen FBI and immigration agents served a search warrant.
Man, I was not even surprised. I was happy.
Sadly, there are many people, some lawyers and also some what are called notarios, who exploit immigrants, non-citizens, some of them undocumented, who are looking for avenues for staying lawfully in the United States.
Congratulations to our newest United States citizen.
It's a very vulnerable population in a country where many of them don't speak English, not familiar with American legal systems and rules.
A classic thing that fraudsters do is they identify what do people really want, and sometimes people are willing to suspend disbelief a little bit because they want to believe that this is a path to getting that thing, and that's certainly what Hellman Hansen did.
Watch me and listen very carefully.
This was a unique one, that's for sure.
KCRA3 Investigates was at Hansen's office last night as a dozen FBI and immigration agents served a search warrant.
We received a tip in 2015 alleging some sort of potential financial fraud.
I remember asking him about the FBI and about whether or not he was worried about being investigated over this, and he was, no, I've got nothing to hide.
After they left, we spoke to Hansen again.
Were you surprised when they came to here today?
Man, I was not even surprised. I was happy. I was happy coming. Thank you for coming, because we need to clear our building. We need to clear how we stand here.
He was incredulous. He really was about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was computers, cell phones, laptops.
I was thinking to myself, there's no telling what kind of records are on some of those computers.
There was a lot of evidence that was collected in the search warrants, and so we were very confident in our case, and so we moved pretty quickly to indict the case after the searches. Earlier today, Hellman Hansen, 63 years old, of Elk Grove, was arrested here in Sacramento.
And today, U.S. Attorney Benjamin Wagner made the announcement that a federal grand jury has indicted Hansen on 13 counts of conspiracy and fraud.
He produced a mountain of evidence against himself, and he did a lot of YouTube videos. During the search warrant, he talked to the agents, gave them a tour of the facility, talked at length. Fraud schemes come in a lot of different flavors, and this one is pretty creative, I think. Far-fetched, I guess, would be another word for it, but I haven't seen one quite like this before.
I was almost ready to be citizen, right? I don't have to worry about the police. I don't have to worry about the Social Security.
Wagner also says as many as 500 alleged victims have signed up for Hansen's program since 2012. They expect that number to grow.
We went right after the indictment. He was a lot less pleased to see us on that day.
We caught up with Hellman Hansen again today and wanted to ask him about the claims in the FBI affidavit.
The FBI don't even know what they're doing. Because when I was sitting over there, they were trying to tell me this, and I listened to it. Nothing but all false.
Started getting really heated, and then he starts yelling, "They can't do this to me. No way, Jose."
and I said, well, oh, yes way, Jose. That's how it works, you know.
The company claims to have people working all across the country: Nevada, Hawaii, Utah, Oregon, Washington, New York, Minnesota, and here in California. They also claim to have representatives in Tonga. and Fiji.
There comes a point when you listen to someone who's so adamant that you actually do put a little bit of doubt into your own mind, no matter how sure you are, because I knew this guy was a fraud.
Here we are helping those people to become a better people, and you guys just paint a picture to make us look like we're criminals. And why hasn't the FBI arrested us here?
But at the same time, I'm like, man, he is awfully committed, though. Like, what does he know that I don't know? Or what does he know that no one else knows?
There's a threatening undertone to some of this as well. I mean, it's a carrot and a stick.
Hansen is now saying those same clients he's purporting to help needed to come to his meeting this past Saturday, or he would turn them in to Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
You are trying to attract the victims who believe in you and believe the system to support you, and also, again, to circle the wagons and to, intimidate those who might be tempted to cooperate with the government.
If you don't come to this meeting, meaning you don't want to stay here in America, you don't want to follow the rules, you don't want to follow anything, it's give us, the Chamber of Commerce, the right that we're going to be able to start sending lists of people who don't want to be in America to the Homeland Security.
That's a threat, and especially to a vulnerable population like that. I mean, I want to believe that we tried to get ahead of it with our reporting in the hopes that we could prevent people from going.
KCRA 3 Investigates was at the AHA offices on Saturday for that meeting. Hellerman Hansen was there, but ducked into the building before we could ask him any questions. Another employee jumped in saying,
"None of your business. You guys you're not welcome over here."
That meeting backfired on him. At a certain point, prosecutors threatened him with witness tampering, and eventually, right after, they went straight into trial.
The trial took place in federal court here in Sacramento. It was about a 2-week trial.
Today, Hellerman Hansen entered a court in a wheelchair. His lawyer claimed Hansen's failing health and his ties to the Pacific Islander community here in Sacramento County were reasons that he should be released. Today, inside a federal courtroom, prosecutors say that after analyzing records back to July of last year, they believe Hansen may now have taken upwards of $1 million from alleged victims.
Mr. Hansen was charged with about 14 counts of mail and wire fraud, and then 2 counts under this provision of the Immigration and Nationality Act. It was about a 2-week trial, long list of witnesses. Again, Mr. Hellerman testified twice, and at the conclusion of it, he was convicted on all counts.
With that, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court, Carolyn Wiggin, on behalf of Mr. Hellerman Hansen.
When he was convicted, we thought it might be the end. We had no idea that the appellate court would push it forward, and Hellerman Hansen somehow ends up in front of the United States Supreme Court.
The parties do agree that overstaying a visa is not a crime.
It's crazy to think that this is a case that started in Sacramento and ended up at the United States Supreme Court, and we were along for that entire journey.
They affirmed all of his fraud counts, the mail and fraud, the mail and wire fraud, and that's really the main show here. But there had been sort of a brewing issue in the Ninth Circuit over this statute of encouraging and inducing persons to come to the United States illegally or reside there.
The jury instruction did not include the proper mens rea, which the government actually agrees with.
He would constantly claim some new ailment, and eventually the courts just let him out because of the COVID-19 pandemic, because he did have some illnesses. And so he got out awaiting his appeal at that point.
There were regular violation petitions, and he always had an excuse as to, why it wasn't his fault. He reported to the Sacramento County Jail, where federal detainees are held, but the jail did not want to accept him because he looked like he was in such poor health.
There's probably maybe 10 to a dozen stories in my career that I'm really, truly proud of, that I felt like I made a real difference.
We went to Hansen's office just this afternoon to try to get his reaction to the indictment. The offices were closed, nobody inside.
And this is one of them. I mean, this is a story that I'm very proud of the work that we did on it because it was important.
If you have children that was brought up in a different country, that's not part of you, and you're here.
Hansen's resentencing was as crazy as everything else in this story. He sat there and the judge was going to give him time served, meaning he wouldn't have to spend any more time in jail. And then Hansen told the judge that he hadn't done anything wrong. And it all went sideways.
Even in pleading guilty, they'll say, yeah, but I didn't do anything wrong. And sometimes the judges will blow up, plea agreements.
Get back. Get back. Don't touch my mom.
The fear that's been generated in immigrant communities by these roving patrols is unheard of. And I don't think we've ever seen a time like this in U.S. history.
I can't think of a more vulnerable population right now than our immigrant community. And con artists will target them. It may not be as crazy as this adult adoption scheme, but they're targeting them and can cost a lot of money and really hurt a lot of people in the process.
The playbook is often the same with any of these types of fraud schemes. They identify a vulnerability or, something that, people desire and want, in this case, immigration.
They've spent a lot of time and money and effort to try to get citizenship, and to fail it's a very disruptive thing for a lot of people.